Hello dear students, my name is Ankita and I am teaching as an assistant professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering at St. Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurugram. I welcome all of you to the online lecture series of subject Computer Networks, and in this video we are going to learn Unit 3 topics, that is WAN introduction, WAN technology and routing concepts. So this is our third video, and in this video we will start with the wide area network. So we know the categorization of networks on the basis of their geographical area. There are three types: LAN, WAN and MAN. LAN stands for local area network, WAN stands for wide area network and MAN stands for metropolitan area network. So here we are going to study about WAN and its technologies. So WAN operates beyond the geographic scope of a LAN. So as we know that LAN covers only few kilometers, whereas WAN can connect number of LANs which are situated or which are connected distance apart. So WANs are used to interconnect such enterprise LANs to remote LANs in the branch sites and the telecomputer sites as shown in this diagram. So WAN acts as a connecting network. It is having its own devices which is able to connect enterprise campus to the remote sites. Okay, so we will study the definition or the technologies of LAN with the help of various points. A WAN is owned by a service provider. A user have to pay the fee to use the provider's network services to connect to the remote sites. And WAN services provide includes carriers such as telephone networks, cable companies or the satellite services. These service providers provide links to the interconnecting remote sites for the purpose of transporting data, voice and video. So in contrast to WANs, LANs are typically owned by the organization and they are used to connect the local computer peripherals with the other devices in the building. So where a WAN works in the OSI reference model, or which layer specifies the WAN connectivity in OSI reference model. So these are the two layers, layer 1 and layer 2, physical layer and the data link layer, which specifies the WAN services. Okay, so as you can see in the diagram, various technologies are there on the data link layer, like MPLS, the Ethernet, WANs, frame relays, point-to-point protocol, broadband, etc. For physical layer, its function is similar as in the normal case of OSI reference model, that it contains all the electrical, mechanical and the operational connections of the network. So data link layer work with the physical layer to deliver the data across the wide area networks of different types. And WAN access standards, they typically describe both the physical layer delivery method as well as the data link layer delivery methods. So data link layer requirements include basically the physical addressing, flow control and encapsulation. Layer 1 protocol mainly describes the electrical, mechanical, operational specification or of the connection or whatever medium we are using to connect different networks. And layer 2 protocols defines how the data is encapsulated for the transmission toward a remote location and the mechanism for transmitting the resulting frames. So both the layers have their separate functionality in terms of if we are talking about. So variety of different technologies are used there, such as point-to-point, ATM is there, broadband is there. In networking, there are many standards provided for different technologies. So WAN also have some standard which manages the WAN technologies, such as the Telecommunication Industrial Association, Electronic Industries Alliances, International Organization for Standardization, ISO, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE. So these are all are the standards which are used to manage or study the or define the various WAN access standards. So next here we have a short table describing the difference between a WAN and LAN. Local area network standards and the protocols define how the network devices are relatively close together. So that makes the acronym local area network makes the acronym for LAN. And in wide area network standards, the protocols are defined to uh, how two network devices are relatively far apart are connected. So WAN focuses on how far your devices are connected with each other. So to form it a big network, and LAN is only capable of connecting the devices which are relatively close together. Okay, so LAN tends to reside in a single building or at most among nearby buildings in a campus using optical cabling approved for the Ethernet. And whereas WAN connections they typically run much longer distances than the Ethernet LANs. So across the town, it may be across town, across cities, or even it can cover big continents as well. The third point is the Ethernet LANs are used to connect buildings and is normally situated inside a campus, whereas WAN is used to connect the such distances uh, which are covered with the LANs. Small buildings. If we have one office in one city and another office in another state, so with the help of wide area network, we can connect such LANs which are situated apart, very far away with each other. So besides LAN and MAN, there is one more network, MAN, Metropolitan Area Network, which is sometimes used for the network that extend between the buildings and through rights of way. So in between LAN and WAN, MAN lies. The term typically implies a network that does not reach as far as WAN and generally spans a single metropolitan area network. This is the network which does not reach as far as the WAN, and it is not sufficient also for the area which a LAN covers. So it resides in between these two types of networks. However, we should remember that the distinction between LAN, MAN and WAN is very little. It's in terms of geographical area only. So there is no such distance that means a link is a LAN, MAN or WAN link. So for example, we have 1000 base ZX, that is gigabit Ethernet, which is having 1000 baseband with ultra extended LAN PHY. So this is the Ethernet standard with the extended wavelength. So this is the example of your metropolitan area network, which use fiber cabling to achieve to achieve and this fiber cabling is covered within the 100 kilometers of the area. Okay, so the company that owns and manages and installs such type of link or circuits, they have the right of way to run the cables under the streets also. So companies can also arrange the cables underground or under streets, under highways or under the rivers. So this generic term service provider that is used to refer the company that provides the least line for demand connectivity. That's why they are a little costlier as well as compared to local area network. Why do we need a WAN? Uh, Without WAN, LAN would be a series of isolated networks only, and to connect such segments of isolated LANs, WANs are used. So LAN provide both the speed and the cost efficiency. Obviously, in case of wide area network, usually fiber optic cables are preferred. So they are very high in speed, and sometimes if you have small distances, like if one office is in the Gurgaon, another office is in you can say in UP somewhere like Agra or Lucknow. So in that case also you can go with the metropolitan area network, and if you want to have a network with the help of wide area network, then it can be cost effective. You can use another cables instead of fiber cables or so on. So, however, an organization's expand businesses require communication among the geographical separated sites also. So, below are some examples like regional or branch offices of an organization need to be able to communicate and share the data with the central sites. So, if we have one company in one state and like Haryana, and the second branch is in the UP or Gujarat or Madhya Pradesh, then these are the they must be having regional branches. So there will be a central branch also. So these regional offices must have the provision to reach out to the central site. So the organization need to share information also with the customer organization. So for example, like software manufacturers routinely communicate the product and the promotional information to the distributors that sell their product to the end user. So that such organization also need to reach out to the customers. So for that purpose we need van. Employees who travel on a company business frequently need to access information that resides on their corporate networks. So for that purpose we need land. So next comes the van technology. So this section particularly that defines how why do we need the land. So to connect the regional office to the central site, we need a LAN. To connect to the customer organization, we need a LAN, because customer may be near your near your organization company, or very far from your company organization. Or you must reach out to the corporate networks also while you are traveling for the business meetings. Okay, so next topic is WAN technology. These are basically divided into two things. Like we all know that switching contains to transfer control from one point to another point. So WAN technologies are divided into two type of networks: circuit switch networks or the packet switch networks. So WAN technologies can operate upon either circuit switch networks or the packet switch networks. So we will see how these two networks work. Circuit switching, if we talk about, this contains a switching function that provides communication pathway between two endpoints and manages how the data flows within the units within these two computers. The most common switching is the known as circuit and packet switching. So ISDN is the best example for the circuit switch network. Like in circuit switched network, a circuit is formed before the data is sent. So all the time when we want to send data to that particular computer or system or station, we will follow that particular circuit. We will follow our data will follow within that particular circuit. So circuit switching requires a dedicated physical connection that should remain same all the time between the sending and the receiving devices. For example, like two parties participating on a phone call, they are talking through a dedicated link between them. And if I want to call some of my friend, it is having a phone number, I will dial that number, and for the first time, and then second time if I want to talk to him, the same number I will dial. So same connection will be used all the time. So my data will flow from the same circuit from my residence to his residence. So this is the example of circuit switch network. When either the party disconnects the circuit, then it is broken and the data path is lost. So when I put my phone down, then only then I will break the connection. So sending system establishes a physical connection and the data is transmitted between them two. When the transmission is complete, the channel is closed. Obviously, circuit switch network is one that is established using the dedicated circuit between the nodes and the terminals before the users may communicate. Specifically, circuit switching dynamically establishes a dedicated virtual connection for voice of the data between a sender and the receiver. Before communication starts, it is necessary to establish a connection through the network of the service provider as shown in the figure here. So whenever you want to send data from here to here, then you have to establish a connection first. That will be done with the help of physical lines that are arranged between these two computers. So whenever you can take the example of a telephone call, it is very much similar to your circuit switch network. So this paragraph defines the procedure how the circuit switching happens in case of telephone calls. Okay. So we will move on to the examples of your circuit switch networks. There are two types of circuit switch WAN technologies, which are public switch telephone network PSTN and ISDN, integrated services digital networks. So if we come on, your next is the packet switching WAN technology, and in contrast with the WAN, with the circuit switching, packet switching PSN, packet switching networks, they splits the traffic into the packets, and they are routed over a shared network. So in circuit switching, data was sent as it was. So in case of audio or visual, whatever you want to transmit. So in the case of packet switching, the such messages are divided into packets. Packet switching networks, they do not require a circuit to be established prior the transmission, and they allow many pairs of the nodes to communicate over the same channel. And the frame relay is the best example for the packet switching. We will study frame relay in the upcoming videos also. As of now, you can see the example of the frame relay. It is a packet switched network basically, and these are the devices. All the time when this unit wants to send data to this particular computer, a virtual connection will be established. The dotted line is showing the virtual connection between the devices. So every time this will send data to this, it will follow this virtual connection. In the packet switching, their messages are broken into pieces, like they are known as packets, and each packet is having the source and the destination address in terms of IP addresses. These packets are required to have this information because they do not always use the uh, same path or route to get to their intended destination. Okay, we can see the example of here also. If due to any reason your this particular or at or is the, or there is any router in between this particular path, so if you want to send data to from this system to this, so this may not be possible, that or if due to any reason this router is not responding, then we have to follow the another path. Okay, imagine that you have a connection between these two devices directly, so this particular computer can follow this path as well instead of this path. So whenever first time I send data here to here, it will follow this path. On second time it can follow path this to this. So however, this is the responsibility of the router, that it should always choose a shortest best path. But in packet switch network, if one connection is not available, so packets will be moving through the different path also. They can move to different paths, so that's why each packet is having a packet number. So at the destination, they are arranged by the layers at the destination, so there is no problem of losing the data. Packets can take the alternative route if particular route is unavailable for some reason. So for example, this particular router is not responding, so this will send data from through this router to this and then to this. Imagine the connection is available here also. Okay. So the switches in the packet switch networks, they determine that the link that packet must be sent over based on the addressing information in the each packet. As I said, that each packet is having source and destination address, and the packets will, though the packets are moving through the different paths, but they will at last reach to their destination because they all have the destination address, and their own number also for rearranging the packets. The numbers are also there for rearranging the packets. So in packet switch network, there are two approaches possible: connection-less service and the connection-oriented. Connection-less service is the best example to understand connection-less service is the internet. And to understand the connection-oriented service, we have telephone networks, ATM, frame relay, WAN. WAN is it itself works in the connection-oriented scenario. So in a connection-oriented system, wherein we need to set up a prior connection before sending the data. Okay, so this was all about the WAN technologies. These concept you must be doing in introduction to WAN, which is the topic of unit third. So next comes the routing. So its name in itself implies that routing is providing a route to some device or to some data or to something. Okay, so this is the procedure to select a path along which the data can be transmitted from source to the destination, and this is performed by using a special device called router. And router always works on the network layer. Router is a networking device that forwards the packet based on the information available in the packet header and forwarding table. So forwarding table is maintained by the router itself, and the packet contains a header which contains the information regarding where it wants to go. So a routing algorithm is managed by each router that are used for providing routing to the packets. And the routing algorithm is nothing but the software which is responsible for deciding the optimal path to which the packet will be transmitted or packet will be traveling. The routing protocol they uses metric to determine the best path for the packet delivery. Metric is the standard measure such as hop count, bandwidth, delay, current load on the path. So hop count is the number of computers available in between your source and destination, and metric is the distance basically from source to destination, and how much the bandwidth is provided in your network, and delays how late or in what time your packet is moving from sender to receiving, or how uh, much time it took to reach to your destination. Okay, delays may be due to any reason like collision may be there, or signal issues may be there. So current load on the path. So all such metrics, all such measurements are handled by the routing protocol, and these routing protocols manage the routing algorithm. Okay, which is used to determine the optimal path. The routing algorithm initializes and maintain the routing table for the process of the path determination. So next comes this is again a little bit definition of your routing or routers. Basically there are two types of packets available in network layer. So first one is data packet and second one is route update packet. So the user data is actually encapsulated in the data packet, which is transferred in the inter-network by these data packets, and the routed protocols are those protocols which support such data traffic. The example of such protocols are IPv4, IPv6, and the AppleTalk. So they uses data packets to reach out to the destination. Second type is route update packets. The information about the networks connected to all the routers is updated to the neighboring routers through the route update packets. So the routing protocols are the ones that are responsible for sending them. Example of such routing protocols which use route update packets is RIP, Routing Information Protocol, Enhanced Interior Gateway Routing Protocol, and Open Shortest Path First Routing Protocol. So these packets are used to send the information to the neighboring routers which are situated in different networks. So next we will see type of routing. There are three types of routing. First one is static routing. The second one is default routing, and third one is the dynamic routing. The static routing, it is a process where we have to manually add the routers in the routing table. And the advantages of such routing is that no routing overhead for the router CPU, which means that a cheaper router can be used to do routing. Okay, so there is no extra functionality added to the static routing, so you can use the cheaper or the less expensive routers for this purpose also. It adds security because only administrators can allow routing to particular networks only, and no bandwidth usage between the routers in the case of static routing. Because this type of routing you are using to just send the information to your neighbors, and which will stay static inside your routing tables, and uh, which we have to manually add. So once it is added, it will not be changed. So these are the information which are going to stay in your table for long. So disadvantages for large network, it is a hectic task for the administrator to manually add, because only administrator use static routing to manage its own network. So all the time for the administrator, it is not possible to manually add each route for the network in the routing table on each other. And the administrator should have the good knowledge of the technology topology. If a new administrator comes in, then then it has to manually add each route. So he should have the very good knowledge of the roots of the topology. So the default routing contains the routing which is used by the router to configure all the packets towards a single router or the next hop. So it doesn't matter to which network the packet belongs. It is forwarded out onto the router which is configured for the default routing. So it is generally used with the sub-routers, and sub-router is a router which has only one route to reach all the other networks. So default routing contains when one hop is having some data, and then it immediately sends all the packet towards a single router. Okay, so which will be the whatever will be the next hop, it will send the data to that router. So that is known as default routing. The third one is dynamic routing, which is important also. This contains the automatic adjustment of the routes according to the current state of the route in the routing table. So uh, this such routing is updated timely according to the situation or position of your source and destination. Dynamic routing that uses protocols to discover network destinations and the routes to reach it. RIP and OSPF are the best example of your dynamic routing protocols, and the automatic adjustment will be made to reach the network destination if one route goes down. The dynamic protocol have the following features. In this, the routers should have the same dynamic protocol running in order to exchange the routes. And when a router finds a change in the topology, then the router advertises it to all other routers. It has the advantage of easy configuration, that we can configure it easily, and more effective. It is more effective at selecting the best route to the destination remote network. But there are two disadvantages also, that it consumes more bandwidth for communicating with other neighbors, and it is less secure than the static routing. Okay, so because timely we are changing the information, routing information in the table. So on the basis of static routing, default routing, dynamic routing, we have three types of protocol. First one is distance vector routing protocol. These protocols select the best path in the basis on the basis of hop counts to reach to the destination. Means these protocols only look for the hop count, if that how minimum the number of hops are there in between source and the destination. Dynamic like dynamic protocols like RIP, this is the best example for the distance vector routing protocol. Hop count is each router which occurs in between the source and the destination network. The path which with the least hop count will be the, I will make it bold so that yes, the path with the least or the minimum hop count, that will be chosen as the best path. Its features are that it updates the network, they are exchanged periodically, Updates is always broadcast, and full routing table they are sent in the updates. So this can become the disadvantage of this particular protocol as well. Well, the last feature that is here, routers always trust on the routing information received from the neighbor routers, and this is also known as the routing on rumors. So whatever is coming from the neighboring routers, we have to trust on that. So disadvantage is that as the routing information is exchanged periodically, unnecessary traffic will be there, so which will consume the available bandwidth. So as full routing table are exchanged, so therefore it has security issues as well. you are giving the full routing table to your neighbors, so the vulnerability will become high here. If an authorized person enters the network, then the whole topology will be easy to be understand. So these are the disadvantage of the distance vector routing protocol. Also the broadcasting on the network periodically creates unnecessary traffic. So this having the unnecessary traffic is the main disadvantage of the distance vector routing. Second is the link state routing protocol. Uh, it defines the route uh, you know which is based on the shortest path first. So we also see the shortest path first in topics of trees in data structures. So these protocols, they know more about the internetwork than any other distance vector routing protocol. They also know the shortest path first. The open shortest path first is the example of this routing protocol, and its features are that hello messages, they are also known as keep alive messages. They are used for the neighbor discovery and the recovery. To know if there is any computer or a system in our neighbor, hello messages are used, and the uh, some updates are also triggered on regular basis. So so there will be, awareness of when topologies are getting changed for the every computer residing in the network. So topology change message or the update will be triggered is triggered on regular basis in the network. Only that much updates are exchanged which is requested by the neighbor. Not whole complete routing table is shared, but the necessary or important information or updates are exchanged between the neighbors. Link state routing protocol that maintains three tables basically. First one is neighbor table, topology table, and routing. Neighbor table contains all the information about the neighbors of the routers only, and the topology table contains all the information regarding the whole topology. Okay, so if any computer system needs to send the information regarding neighbor, it will send only the neighbor table, and if it wants to send topology information to some specific administrator or the user, it will use topology table. And routing table, when someone demands for the routing table, it will share the routing tables which contains all the information about the best routes on the network. So its advantages are that it maintains separate tables for both of the best routes and the backup routes. So security enhances here. We need not to send the complete table at once. The concept of triggering updates, they are also there for they are also there. So we can minimize the unnecessary traffic, so unnecessary bandwidth consumption will not be there. Partial updates are triggered when there is topology change, not a full update like distance vector routing protocol was doing. So if you have topology change information, partial updates can be sent instead of updating with the full information. The last type of routing protocol is advanced distance vector routing protocol. It is, you can say, the combination or the collection of both the technologies which are having which we have studied about, your link state routing protocol and distance vector routing protocol. So it is a combination of both these protocols, and EIGRP, Enhanced Interior Gateway Routing Protocol, is the example of such protocols. If this protocol acts as the link state routing protocol, then it uses the concept of hello protocol for the neighbor discovery and forming adjacency, and also the partial updates are triggers when any change occurs. And if EIGRP acts as the distance vector routing protocol, as it learns routes from the directly connected neighbors. So in that case it uses neighbors table. So in both the cases, advanced distance vector routing protocol selects only required piece of table which is used to send the data to some other computer. or router inside the network. So this was all about your WAN technologies and the routing. If any, because these are the to the point questions, so they may ask the short note, they may ask for the short note on routing or the WAN, introduction to WAN in your final examination. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.